Okay, I just clicked.
Kyle, are we good?
I'm still waiting.
Not yet. Me too.
There we go.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Warwick School Committee. Pursuant to Executive Order number 20-05 issued by the Governor of the State of Rhode Island. This meeting will be conducted by electronic communication only. Members of the public wishing to access this meeting may do so at https://youtube/mkw80vd8u34. So I'll call the meeting to order at 5:31. We'll do the pledge at the regular opening of the meeting at 7. So we'll go right to the election of officers.
Superintendent,
Yes, Madam Chair.
that the number sequence that you just gave, number and letter sequence, you said 0, that's an O.
I stand corrected. So it'd be YouTube/MKW8OVD8U34. My apologies.
No problem. It's hard sometimes to tell.
All right. So if I could start things tonight with the election of officers, I'd first be looking for a nomination for chair. Do I have any chair nominations?
I nominate Judith Cobden for the
Cornell, please go ahead.
I nominate Judith Cobden for the position of chairwoman of the Warwick School Committee.
Do I have a second for that nomination?
Second.
Mr. Adams, a second. Do I have any other nominations?
Dr. Thornton, I nominate Karen Backus for school committee chair.
Do I have a second for that nomination?
Second.
Second. All right. Do I have any other nominations before we proceed to discussion? Okay, so let's have discussion, and I will call on folks as they raise their hand.
And Phil, just so the discussion would, because the first motion or the first nomination was for Judy, that she will be the first person who's discussed, and then we can discuss Karen, and then we'll look for a motion.
Thank you. So let's focus our discussion first on Ms. Cobden. Do I have any discussion for Ms. Cobden as chair? Any discussion for Ms. Cobden as chair?
Why do you want to be chair?
Why do I want to be chair, Karen?
Yes,
That's to me.
that's to you.
I would like to bring a new synergy to the committee and to the city, since we have a new mayor and we have a new president of the city council. I think, it's been 2 years and it's time to change the hats and see if we can get a new synergy going.
What kind of synergy?
Dynamic, work together.
Oh.
I feel I want a shot at doing that.
I would like to say something as well.
Mr. Cornell, please.
I think Ms. Cobden she has experience work with people. I've always been able to work with her. She's always been nice to me, even if she thinks I did something wrong. She always talks to me and honest with me. She doesn't yell at me. She just I think she'll be a good chair. She'll be able to run meetings. She can work with everyone, be impartial. And also in regards to changing a chair, it's a tradition for the school committee. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, like at least every 2 years, they shifted a position of chair just to let different person have a shot. It's not personal. It's not personally against anyone for individually. It's good for democracy to just change it up and not have somebody have one position for too long.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. Any other discussion for Ms. Cobden as chair? Any other discussion for Ms. Cobden? Hearing none, I'll go to discussion for Ms. Backus as chair. Any discussion for Ms. Backus as chair?
Dr. Thornton, if I may, I nominated Ms. Backus as chair because I think that while Karen and we've had our differences over the years, I think we agree on more than we disagree on. I think that she's I think that she's been a pretty effective chair. I think, in addition, she already has 2 terms under her belt. She's into her 3rd, and it took at least 5 or 6 years before she took the helm. So I think she has a very deep understanding of the issues facing the school committee and the school department. I think she has a good understanding of the issues facing the city. And I think she has a good rapport with members of the council. I think that, with all due respect to Mr. Cornell, about in the 70s or 80s, I don't know, I wasn't around then. I don't know if they changed every 2 years, and I'm not sure mixing it up is for the sake of mixing it up is a good thing to do. I think there is something to be said for continuity. I think we're in the middle of a contract that's not settled yet. So that's still in limbo. I think we still have some serious building and infrastructure projects to do and to oversee. And I nominated Ms. Backus because I'm just more comfortable with her as a chair. I think she'd be a more effective chair. No disrespect to anyone else on the committee. But I just think she'd be a more effective chair because I think she has more institutional knowledge to carry out that role.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Any other discussion from Ms. Backus as chair? Any other discussion? Ms. Backus. Ms. Backus, please.
And I wish this was in private session, but it's not. So, but I need to speak this because people need to know. So, in these 2 years as chair, Ms. Cobden has made derogatory remarks, made fun of me, berated me because I take this as a full-time job. And I'm a fool for doing that. And she has said this on more than one occasion. It was very hurtful, but it is what it is. So I'm putting that out there so people know that I have worked very hard and I have worked with people very diligently at all levels, Chamber of Commerce, everywhere. And I would intend to continue to do that if I am reelected chair. But I think that people should be aware that maybe Ms. Cobden doesn't think that this is such an important job, and everybody will do it differently. But that always hurt me, and that always concerned me.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, one more thing.
I would like to have a discussion.
I would like to finish. I'm sorry. And the other thing is 2 years ago, Ms. Cobden was appointed to the Health and Wellness Committee.
With you, Ms. Backus.
Yes, with me. And then you wanted Nathan, so we put Nathan on.
That happened this year during COVID.
No, look at.
Yeah, it did, Karen.
Judy,
I'm just gonna ask you guys
you have no right
not to
interrupt me while I'm speaking.
interrupt each other. Each of you take your,
Unbelievable.
right, and so let's just make sure.
You were the chair, of that committee.
Sure, just for the order of the meeting,
Where does
that
it say I
one
was
person
chair on
speaks
that? We
and
were
then it will be the
co-chairs.
next to say.
We were
Point of order.
co-chairs, Ms. Backus, co-chairs.
You were the lead, just like I'm the lead on the personnel committee. I'm just putting it out there.
Which is
I'm the lead on the
overstepping our
policy
boundary.
committee.
Which
can't
is
have everybody
overstepping
talk-
our boundaries,
Point of
Ms.
order.
Backus.
I don't think we should have a discussion on this because this is not the forum to just trash each other and why they shouldn't have a certain
Not.
position. Let's have no discussion, just vote.
I had the floor.
Any more discussion, Ms. Backus?
Yeah, I have a discussion. I'm allowed to speak, no?
I'm already speaking. What is,
Ms. Cobden, I'm going to you next.
I don't know why everybody wants to interrupt me. This committee, Health and Wellness, has never met. Ms. Cobden has told me repeatedly when I've asked her about it, oh, I have people all lined up.
And
But
we hit
that's
COVID,
never-
Karen. We hit COVID. We hit COVID.
More Needed.
Everybody,
Yeah, we hit COVID. Okay, can I speak
give me
now?
1 sec. Just one.
Ms. Lombardo, you're freezing up on us. Ms. Cobden, I'll go to you, please.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I agree with Mr. Cornell that this isn't a time to be insulting and trashing one another, but I will have to speak out why I feel I will be a better chair. I don't degrade people. I don't talk to them in an evil manner. You have gone constantly to meetings with various people like the mayor, and you never take anybody else. And it's not about me as the vice chair. You took no one to meetings. You had meetings consistently with people, and the four of us never knew about it. We didn't know what was going on in this district. It wasn't right. And then we have things when it comes back to them, we get the he said, she said, because there's no witnesses in the meetings and it had to stop. You have gone and overstepped your boundaries at meetings with in schools with employment issues. You have sat through interviews that you didn't belong in, and we don't like the way we're spoken to. We don't work for you. We work for the city. How many times have I heard you say you expect more from me? I don't work for you, Karen. I work for my constituents in the city, and I want to do that, and I want to continue doing that. And I think the way you speak to people can be more effective, and I think I can do it better. I don't like the way you have spoken to most of us on this committee. You have threatened us, and if you want to talk about being unprofessional, you are calling me someone else's name in a meeting throughout the meeting. In an executive session. It was wrong. And we're just tired of you speaking to us like we don't have a say. People will throw things out and you're like, no, we're not going to do that. I don't believe that that's the way this committee should be run. And I want to bring a more positive role where all five of us have amazing gifts to give to the city. We all come to the table with extremely different skills. And I just feel like they're not being utilized. They're just not being utilized. I mean, you were talking with the president of the city council about opening new schools, and we didn't know about it. I heard about it on the street from someone who's in office. We didn't even know you were doing those meetings.
I didn't know I was either.
You were talking with them. You were having tons of meetings with them. Yeah, you were with Mr. Mr. Lattiser and Mr. Marola, and then all of this stuff comes up. The thing is, we need to work as a team.
Okay.
And I don't know why this had to turn into a bashing session, because I had no interest in.
Ms. Cobden, we lost your audio.
Dr. Thornton?
Mr. Adams, please.
I just a question for you. I'm not sure how much we should continue because it looks like our council is having trouble as well being in the meeting.
Yeah, well, Mr. Adams, you haven't spoken yet, so certainly if you want to make a point, you certainly have that right.
Oh, that was my point.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? I would just, one last call for discussion for Ms. Backus as chair. If not, we will go back to the first nomination.
Just one thing,
Ms. Backus.
Ms. Cobden is under the impression that the chair brings other people to meetings that they're invited to. And even Mr. Testa knows that that is not the case. The meetings that I went to, I was invited guest by the superintendent and went with the superintendent. I didn't have it wasn't my meeting. I was an invited guest.
Thank you. So I will now go back to the first nomination, which was Ms. Cobden as chair. So I believe we do a roll call vote, Ms. Lombardo. Is that correct?
She's frozen and she's continually frozen. So until
I believe
That's what the note says, that the instructions that we were sent, we do a roll call.
Thank you, Ms. Cobden. So Ms. Bonan, please call the roll. The nomination for Ms. Cobden as chair.
Okay, so the nomination for Ms. Cobden as chair. Mr. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Testa.
Nay.
Mr. Cornell.
Aye.
Ms. Cobden,
Aye.
Ms. Backus,
Nay. Congratulations, Ms. Cobden.
So that
Thank
motion
you.
passes.
I look forward to working with you
And
still.
Ms. Cobden, I would now turn the meeting over to you as chair to finish the process for vice chair.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Thornton. At this time, I would like to get a nomination for vice chair for the Warwick School Committee. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Nathan Cornell.
I'll second that. Do we have a discussion?
Nightmare. I need help.
I nominate, do you want more nominations or?
I believe, Ms. Cobden, Madam Chair, we just get all the nominations first, then we discuss them all in order, if we could.
I nominate Mr. Testa.
Do we need a second for that, to have that go forward?
Our council
Yeah.
seems
Yes,
to have
she's-
dropped.
she's
done.
gone, so
I would just need a second for Mr. Testa as vice chair to have that go forward for the second nomination. Do I have a second? Seeing no second, we would have the one nomination for discussion, Madam Chair. So we'd be discussing Mr. Cornell as vice chair. So is there any discussion, Madam Chair, for Mr. Cornell? That's where we'd pick it up, I believe.
May I?
Ms. Cobb, are you frozen?
No, I'm right here. I mean,
Oh.
Ms. Bacchus, you have something to
Thank you.
discuss?
I'm sorry, but I have significant concerns about Mr. Cornell being chair. He's been on.
Vice chair.
Vice chair. He's been on the committee for 2 years. He doesn't understand Robert's rules and a lot of the other things, which sometimes causes great frustration for people, especially for myself and others, when running a meeting. And I don't think that it's prudent. So I will not cast my vote for him. And I'm sorry, Nathan, I'm not going to be dishonest.
I will speak. Although Mr. Cornell has been on this committee for 2 years, like myself, and obviously the life experience isn't equal or near us because there's a huge age difference. I think Mr. Cornell actually knows the process. Speaking as someone who was vice chair for 2 years, I believe he can handle that. I think with guidance, he can bring a lot more to the table that he's been allowed to. And he has some great skills that I don't think has been utilized well enough in the last 2 years. I do know that if he needs to run a meeting, he knows how to run a meeting because he has corrected all of us during meetings on what we're supposed to be voting on, not. I think his heart is in the right place. I think he's a good candidate. Thank you. Anyone else? For discussion for Mr. Cornell for vice chair? I guess we should take a roll call.
Excuse me, you're supposed to ask 3 times.
Is there a discussion? Any more discussion for vice chair for Mr. Cornell? At this point, I believe we should just do a roll call. Ms. Boning, would you like to do the roll call?
sure. Mr. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Testa,
Nay.
Mr. Cornell,
Aye.
Ms. Cobden,
Aye.
Ms. Backus,
Nay.
3-2, motion passes.
Congratulations, Mr. Cornell.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Then the next position is for clerk. I would like to nominate Kyle Adams.
I Second.
Any discussion for Mr. Adams for being clerk? Any discussion?
I'd just like to say, I think, as a former clerk, I think Kyle will do a great job. He's been very helpful in the meetings regarding like if we're having electronic problems. He's been very helpful with that, and I have my full confidence in him in his position. So he'll have my vote.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. Any more discussion for Mr. Adams being clerk? At this time, I guess we should do the roll call.
You need to do it 3 times.
Oh, lost track. Again, any discussion for the position of clerk with Mr. Adams? Shall we do roll call?
Mhm. Mr. Adams?
Aye. Speaking of technical difficulties.
Mr. Testa?
Aye.
Mr. Cornell?
Aye.
Ms. Cobden?
Aye.
Ms. Backus?
Aye.
5-0. Congratulations, Mr. Adams.
Thank you.
As this is now done, we need to vote to go into closed session for discussion and or action regarding those items of business exempt from open meetings under general laws of Rhode Island, RIGL 42-46-5, A1, A2, A4, A8, and A9.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we're now in,
Well, not yet. I
Vote.
got to put you in a breakout room.
okay,
But the
but
vote,
officially we're out of this meeting.
yeah, the
You're
vote.
going to make your vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Boning, if you could re-admit Ms. Lombardo when you get a chance.
Yeah, I did. She's
I'm
in.
in, Phil. Thank you. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, everyone. Thank
It
you.
happens, it
Oh
happens.
my God. Really bad timing, but thank you.
Phil, you have to sign in as yourself.
There it is.
Okay, so I don't have Phil because he signed in on the, here he comes. Oh, it says Kim. All right, well, let me go back to that one. I'll let 2 Kims in. And it comes up with Jeff. Get rid of that. Are you still? Wait a minute, I gotta get myself in there.
Is everybody here?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, wonderful. I guess we should start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Adams, would you like to lead?
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we need to vote to seal the minutes of executive session. Do I have can I make a motion to seal the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. One vote was taken in executive session. And we'll move on to public comment. Ms. Bonet?
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the school committee, I have 7 public comments this evening that all fit the criteria for the public comment protocol. My first one is from Jonathan Lettieri. Since all schools are reopening, will teachers be expected to deliver simultaneous instruction to students in person in the classroom and students learning from home? If so, when will you direct administration to provide professional development to teachers on the best methods and practices to actively engage both groups of students? My next comment is from Kimberly Vecchio. I am strongly opposed to the idea of forced vaccinations for teachers and staff. My health is not your responsibility, and my health decisions are certainly not your responsibility or anyone else's. The current survival rate after contracting COVID-19 in the United States is 98.3%. As a young, healthy person, my chances of survival are even higher than that. If you are someone with a reason you feel you need to be protected, then by all means take the responsibility for your own health and get vaccinated. I am willing to take the 1.7% risk, especially when considering the possibility of significant side effects of vaccination. Potential side effects include severe flu-like symptoms, Bell's palsy, the need for hospitalization, the need for intensive care services, and death. There have been 10 reported deaths and 13 reported instances of requiring intensive care services in the United States thus far. Pharmaceutical companies and our government have no liability for these side effects. I cannot sue them if I experience one of these reactions. If you require me to get this vaccine to come to work and I have such a reaction, can I sue the school district? Finally, and what is probably the most important piece of data is this: they do not have data to indicate that being vaccinated prevents a vaccinated person from spreading the disease to others. Therefore, even if you do subscribe to the idea of community responsibility for health, your argument does not stand when the data we have suggests that the only person protected by the vaccine is the person who is vaccinated. My vaccination does not protect you. My vaccination does not protect other staff members. My vaccination does not protect students. It only protects me, and I should have the freedom, presently considered a dirty and selfish word, to decide the level of protection I need based on my health. Forced vaccinations will only serve to put teachers and staff in a position of having to choose between their health and their livelihoods. My next comment is from Jessica Greenberg. I am a high school teacher. I have played by every rule, avoiding restaurants, avoiding seeing my family and being in anyone's home, etc. Why am I being told that I have to eat my lunch with a room of students? I appreciate how hard everyone is working, but this is completely unacceptable and goes against everything we have been told since March. Unmasked in a room of kids is unsafe for those of us that are healthy, for those of us with medical conditions, and for those of us that live with elderly and frail parents. Find another way. My next comment is from Darlene Necco. Although there is a more contagious strain of the virus and we are in a crucial post-holiday period in which corona cases are increasing due to December's widespread travel and holiday, the vernacular, all Warwick schools are reopening to in-person learning, and the elementary schools are joining the special programs in being full in person, which raises myriad safety concerns. Therefore, please proceed with caution and consider the following issues. Return should have been staggered and with greater time for teachers to prepare. Elementary teachers cannot instantaneously switch back and forth between virtual and in-person instruction. The secondary schools have been closed all year. Teachers, especially VETS teachers who had their rooms emptied to accommodate the special programs, are going to need time to set up their rooms. Are you going to relieve teachers of their virtual teaching duties this week so that they can prepare for in-person learning next week? For reasons I have previously stated, elementary teachers cannot continue to teach both in-person and distance learning only students, period. Are the windowless classrooms and offices, particularly at Windman and Tollgate, but also in other schools, actually going to be safe with only air purifiers and no exchange of fresh air? Ardent reports upon which administration is relying are woefully incomplete and unconvincing. A principal entered a teacher's classroom, slammed the windows shut, and reprimanded the teacher in front of the students for having the windows open. The teacher and the parents had agreed that the windows should be open to provide fresh air into the classroom. The windows should be open despite the principal's tantrum. Finally, you need to follow your own protocols. At your last meeting, one letter writer had 2 public comments and one letter writer only provided her first name. However, the public comment stopped abruptly due to time and prevented the reading of other letters. Depending on the number of letters that remained, the chair could have used her discretion to extend the time limit. Follow your rules. My next comment is from Alicia Carasso. I'm a parent of a K student and 6th grader. I was so glad to finally be able to send my 6th grader back until I was advised these children will not be in stable pods. Wasn't stable pods the big deal breaker advised by scientists to keep kids in school safely? Doesn't switching classes with all different kids per class defeat the entire scenario of opening safely? It does not matter how often you clean those rooms if you are cross-contaminating kids all day long anyways. I'm so disappointed in our committee for allowing this to occur. Right now, all we have is this committee to count on to get our kids into the classroom safely. And now we can't even count on that to follow the guidelines given out to give our kids the education they deserve safely. I now have to pull my child out of in-person and highly disappoint him because the lack of proper safety within his school. Please try to do more for these children and staff. This one is from Catherine Roush. Why are we risking this in the very worst weeks of the pandemic when a vaccine is just around the corner? How is requiring students to get their own transportation legal? What if students need to wipe their noses during the 7 hours day? What if their breath causes the mask to get wet? Wet masks do not work. Who is culpable when someone develops COVID-19 because of this? What about people with pre-existing conditions? Can you look your community members in the eyes and truly claim this plan adheres to the most up-to-date pandemic protocols? Who has the responsibility if, when a student walking to and from school gets into an accident or gets frostbite or takes a ride from someone who intends harm to them? How can a teacher wearing a mask be heard? The Daily Beast called Rhode Island today a COVID death spiral. Rhode Island is the 3rd worst in the world in its numbers. So what is the goal here? Mental health? Well, you succeeded in driving many of us insane with this. Any reality-based person needs to be accountable here because while many people are struggling, we have at least survived this far. So reality being what it is, we must adhere to it. My last comment is from Sherry Smith. I am writing to express my disappointment with the lunch policy set forth by Tollgate High School for return to in-person instruction. If a student is unable to wear a mask, such as during lunchtime, regulations on the RIDE website state that they should be sit 14 feet apart, also taking into consideration students who will need to be further away due to food allergies. How is this possible while in a classroom? If it is unsafe for students to be maskless all over periods of the day and times, how is lunchtime somehow safe to be maskless and only 6 feet apart? I know the teachers are getting plexiglass next week, but this does not protect students in any way. I ask that the school committee and administrators revise the in-classroom lunch policy. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Bonet. At this time, we'll go to School committee correspondence and donations. Thank you to Holloman families. We've got a $500 and holiday gift cards for them. I'd like to thank you to the people who keep sending in donations. It's greatly appreciated and obviously very much needed at this time that we're going through. Recommended actions: approval of minutes of public session, December 8th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second.
Aye.
The ayes have it. December 15th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, 5-0. January 5th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, 5-0. Approval of warrants, January 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. And approval of transfers for January 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ayes have it. Announcements of personnel as presented. Discussion and actions, retirements, resignations. I believe this would be Mrs. Ruggieri.
Good evening. Tonight we have 4 teacher retirements to go through. We have Kathleen McCrillis Burns, an English teacher at Pilgrim, effective December 31st, 2020. She has with us 26 years of service. Next, we have Donna Wynn, who's an elementary library media specialist, assigned to Sherman and Park, effective February 5th, 2021. She has 19 years with the district. We have Mary Chisholm, an elementary teacher, grade 1 at Oakland Beach, effective January 6th, 2021. She has 30 years with Warwick and 4 years in the state, giving her 34 years of service. And finally, we have Margot Williams, an EL teacher and department head at Windman, effective June 30th, 2021. And she has 30 years of service with Warwick. So I'd like to thank them all for their service and wish them well.
And so we also need a motion because, and I understand we had kind of talked about this after the last meeting, for retirements, resignations, those don't work the same as appointments. So we do need approval by the school committee for those. So I think you can take them as a group unless somebody wants to pull one out, but you do need a motion and you have to vote on them.
I'll make a motion to accept the retirements of those just mentioned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, 5-0.
And I do have 2 appointments to announce tonight. 2 new administrators. We have Timothy McGrath as the controller, effective February 1st, and Michael Templeton as the assistant principal of climate and culture at Veterans, effective January 27th. I'd like to welcome them both to the district, and we're happy to have them. Thank you.
Welcome to the district. And I'd like to say that there's 5 people right here on this committee that if we can be of any help of you transitioning into Warwick Public Schools, we're all here for you. Thank you. Okay, adoptions of policies. We have JHF, student safety, the first reading, Dr. Cecil.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair and school committee members. We have before you tonight policy JHF. It is a new policy and it is on student safety. It's 6 pages long, so I would not recommend reading it. But the essence of it is for schools to have safety plans that that have content about making sure that students are not bullied, that parents are involved in any issue that may arise at school that may warrant a plan. I believe Ms. Lombardi was part of developing this, and she may want to speak a little bit more to the content.
Yeah, so this is, I know you may recall, there was an investigation by OCR several years back. As part of our settlement agreement with OCR, we are required to, or the school committee is required to adopt this policy. It is OCR approved, and it's one of the last steps involved with fulfilling our settlement agreement with OCR.
So I would recommend approval of first read.
I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the student safety JHF.
Second.
All
Madam
in
Chair, may I ask a question?
I'm sorry, yes, discussion.
Thank you. A couple of things. Number one, do we have to, on a first reading, do we just approve, or does it just goes through on a first reading? The second reading, the final, is the final reading that we vote on, I think, right?
You can vote on a first reading.
Okay.
It's fine to vote on, it just means now we'll go on to a second reading, but it won't be enacted until after the second reading.
All right. So the question I really have is for you, Ms. Lombardo. This was, I don't want to say this is a boilerplate policy, but we're not alone in this
No.
policy, right? This is a standard policy.
We had to develop so as part of our settlement agreement, we were required to develop a student safety policy. So I wrote the policy. There was quite a bit of back and forth. There were really specific things that that OCR wanted included in the policy. There were many years of meetings on this. And so this is where we finally kind of ended up based on very strong guidance from OCR.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Cornell?
Ms. Lombardo, I think this might be for you. What happens if a student, well, the parent wants this this program, but the student objects, like they don't want it?
They don't want a safety plan?
Yes.
I think it probably depends on the age of the student, whether they're an elementary student or a secondary student. And it's, somewhat at the discretion of the parties and the administrator, but I would think the age goes into it. It's supposed to be voluntary by all parties. So I think, if we were in a situation, and I have not had one, to be honest, and I do safety plans a lot, where a student and parent were at odds. My guess is that we would, meet and talk about it and try to mediate and resolve it.
Okay, yeah, I just was wondering, because some student they might be bullied, but they might not want to have this program. They might feel like they're embarrassed, or they might just knowing students, like some students might be uncomfortable with this plan. So I'm just curious what the situation would be if, like, the parent wants this, but the student really doesn't want this to happen because of their concerns about social standing.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Usually when we have a safety plan, we sit down with the school psychologist and a social worker and, each party separately, and kind of discuss what the student is comfortable with and what the parent is comfortable with. Sometimes if a student is uncomfortable with an overt safety plan, we have put things into place where, teachers might be only the teachers of that student know that this is in place. The other student doesn't know, but they're keeping a lookout so that attention isn't drawn to that. I mean, there are a lot of things that that the school district can do, really with guidance from the school psychologists and social workers, to try to facilitate a safety plan that isn't necessarily bringing additional attention to a student who may not want that kind of attention on them.
Okay, thank you for that information. It was very helpful.
We have any more discussion from anyone? Any more discussion? Last call for discussion. Okay, with no more discussion, I will make the motion to approve the first reading.
There's a motion on the table already.
Okay.
I think we just need a vote, Judy.
Okay, we'll take the vote.
Mm-hmm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. The next policy we're looking at is JE, student attendance, and it's also the first reading. Dr. Cecil.
Yes, this is an existing policy that we have added language, excuse me, around attendance during distance learning. Around the country, many districts have added language to their existing student attendance policies due to distance learning. And ours talks to differentiate between elementary and secondary, what constitutes attendance during remote learning, in terms of being screen time, submitting assignments, etc. And so it's very specific about the average number of hours per day that a student needs to be engaged, and what that combination of elements are that would constitute whether it's tardy, whether it's a full attendance, or whether it's a early dismissal, leaving school early. And so that language is clearly delineated. If you want me to read it, I'm happy to read it, but it's about 2 pages long, but it really just speaks to what we've all been saying throughout the year, but it just puts it on paper, and the school committee would approve it so that it becomes a policy moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. So I would like to add that
Ms. Cobden, we lost your audio.
While we wait for Ms. Cobden, just to add this in.
I got it. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm saying that this document has been added to our website, correct, Ms. Boney?
Not yet, not until it's
Oh, it won't be on there?
right, not until
Okay.
not until
But it
second.
will be, and the parts will be is underlined. I mean, I can read it. Do you think I should read this? It is about almost 3 pages long. You know, I'm going to read it just because I think this is important for people to hear, and be notified now. So I think it's best that we read it now. I can read it for everyone, Dr. Cecil.
Okay.
Distance learning attendance procedure for elementary. Attendance for students shall be monitored on a daily basis. In the remote setting, data will be collected to report student logins into the various educational systems utilized by the district. Additionally, the submission of grading of coursework, assessments in assignments will be used to report participation for attendance purposes. Student attendance shall be reported daily based on the student activity. The district will adhere to the state's required instructional hours, which will be confirmed through the collection of data and reporting the student attendance activities previously noted. During hybrid or remote learning, a school day shall consist of an average of 3.5 to 5 hours daily of synchronous delivered same time or asynchronous not delivered at the same time programming. Attendance may be based on a combination of participation in completion and or submission of assignments as determined by existing practices and practices that may be announced. It shall be the responsibility of the teacher or designated staff member to record attendance. Excused and unexcused absences for any period of time shall be recorded consistent with existing practices. District administration shall develop a process to proceed outreach and support when families are not participating. Evidence of student attendance in remote or hybrid learning environment may include a combination of any of the following: participation in virtual classroom, completed assignments, participation in group chats organized by their teacher, relevant questions sent to teacher about classwork, participation in group chats about subject matter organized by students. Evidence screenshot, picture, or website can be provided by student. Communication with teacher by way of electronic communication, meaning chat, text, email, etc., telephone, video conference, or in person. Types of absences. In addition to the excused absences listed in the board policy JE, the following will be considered: A power outage, B, internet service provider outage, C, unexpected technical difficulties such as software updates, password research, etc. Complications created by the state of emergency which interfere with student participating in school. All excused absence reasons must be documented by parent or guardian. Attendance shall be taken for each Google Meet and any other mandatory virtual instruction. If a student is not present for all afternoon Google Meets and or other mandatory virtual instruction, they shall be marked as early dismissal. If a student is not present on time for a Google Meet and or other virtual instruction in the morning, they shall be marked tardy in accordance with the definition in this policy. Now we're going to move on to middle and high school. Attendance shall be tracked for every time the students are in school for distance learning through a Google sign-in form. The form shall be completed prior to the beginning of the designated school day, as determined by the school's administrator and communicated to students and parents. Any student who does not sign in for the day by the designated school start time will be marked absent, unexcused, in accordance with the definition in this policy. Any student who signs in for the day after the designated school start time shall be marked tardy in accordance with the definition in this policy. Daily attendance may be adjusted to reflect that a student was present for all classes at the discretion of the school administrator. Attendance shall be taken for each Google Meet and or any other mandatory virtual instruction. If a student is not present for a Google Meet and or mandatory virtual instruction, they will be marked absent, unexcused, in accordance with the definition in this policy. If a student is not present on time for a Google Meet and or other virtual instruction, they shall be marked tardy in accordance with the definition in this policy. So that is the part that's being added.
So, and Madam Chair, if I can just add, we were required to come up with distance learning policies by the family court. And these amendments were all made in conjunction with Ms. Danbrook and Mr. McCaffrey and the secondary administrators, along with Mr. Lombardi.
And Madam Chair, I believe I put that paragraph in twice about the attendance for the Google Meet. That was meant for the elementary. So I will strike it for the second read.
Okay.
From that end of that second.
Okay, Dr. Cecil, thank you. So I guess we can take a motion for the first reading on this.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion on this topic? Any discussion? Okay, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you. I will bring this back next time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cecil, as usual. New business. Discussion action. Controller contract terms. Mrs. Ruggieri.
Good evening again. I come to you respectfully requesting favorable action on the contract presented in executive session for the controller.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the contract terms for the controller.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? I'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Number 2, discussion and action, assistant principal, climate culture, veterans middle school contract terms. Again, Mrs. Ruggieri.
I again come before you requesting favorable action on the contract for the assistant principal of climate and culture at Veterans Middle School as presented in executive session.
I make a motion to approve these contract terms.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, I'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ruggieri. Discussion action, administrators contract terms. Dr. Thornton.
Madam Chair, good evening. I'm recommending favorable action for the administrator contracts as discussed in executive session.
I'd like to make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion on any of the contracts that we discussed? Any discussion? Okay, I'll take,
A point of order, Ms. Compton. It's not necessary to ask any discussion 3 times. Just so you know.
thank you, Ms. Bacchus.
You're welcome. I know
Um,
you do, so just, you know.
I appreciate your help. Thank you. Could I'll just take the motion. We have the motion on, so I'll take the vote now. All in favor of these contract terms for all the administrators that was discussed?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Discussion update, public comment and protocol. Ms. Bacchus, would you like to handle this as this was originally an item that you would like on the agenda?
Actually, Madam Chair, I think number 4, in-person reopening calendar.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. Number 4, discussion action, in-person reopening calendar amendment. Mr. McCaffrey.
Evening, Madam Chair, members of the school committee. The calendar presented last week as an amendment to it. We're looking to have 6th and 9th grade attend on January 19th and 20th, and the remainder of students coming back to secondary on the 21st, and I ask for your support and passage.
Thank you, Mr. McCaffrey. I'd like to make a motion to, in favor of this calendar amendment.
Second.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on this?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Testa.
Thank you. Mr. McCaffrey, just for the public's edification, this was done because last week when we did this, grades 6 and 9 are secondary, and that's hybrid, right? So we're only going to send half the kids
Yes.
on one day. So we just didn't realize, you know what, we pick one day for orientation when it's really has to be 2 because it's the, I'm going to call it the A day and the B day, right?
Yes.
So that's why. Okay, thank you.
And we weren't able to squeeze it in a half day, 2 half days.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So can I get a motion for the amendment of the calendar?
Move approval.
Have it. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. And now we're on to the discussion update with the public comment protocol. Ms. Bacchus.
There have been some inconsistencies with public comment and some concerns with people sending in multiple letters or calling people out or things like that, that we explicitly said we expected not to have and put that in the rules for same. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to the superintendent, who spoke with our legal counsel on this and made some determinations about how to go forward.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair, if I could. In
Yes.
terms of the process, we are following the school committee protocol where we have the first half hour of public comment as they come in, and we read those. Any comments after the half hour mark, we will send to the school committee for their review. We will not carry them to a following meeting because in doing so, you could have a situation where you could have an onslaught of public comments and you're still reading them months later. To be really not productive. So we read the first half hour of the comments and send the balance to the committee for their review. So that's what we're doing moving forward. And that's what we did tonight as well. Well, tonight we actually only had a handful. So last meeting, I believe we had a few more.
Madam Chair, may I say something with respect to this?
Yes, Mr. Testa.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thornton. I would like, as a matter of public record, to reserve the right to the chair, if there should be an abundance of public comment that's very germane to what we're discussing, that the chair can decide to continue to read them, to extend that time. I don't think we should do that on the fly right in the middle of a meeting. I think maybe Ms. Bonang, depending on the volume of public comment that comes in, can share with the chair, look, we have about 50 or 45 minutes of public comment, and I think we should announce it at the beginning of that meeting. And I'm open to suggestion on this if we're going to do that, because oftentimes it's the same point reiterated over and over again, but I think the chair should reserve the right to extend that time. And the second thing I would say is, and I don't think this has happened, but just in case, when we're live in meetings, and I'm ready to go anytime, when people come up for public comment, they identify themselves by name. And I think if someone's going to email in a public comment, they need to do the same. If you haven't identified yourself by signing the public comment, don't rely on your email address to identify who you are. I think it should be signed just like you would if you were standing at the podium in a public session. Say, I am John Smith or whatever. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to agree with Mr. Tester on that. We have gotten some that someone just, some people have just used their first names. If you are going to use your first name and not include your last name, I will agree that they should not be read. In any public meetings, some even required for you to write your address. We're just asking that you put your full name down. Any more discussion on this? Do we need to take a vote on this? I don't think so.
No vote. It's just a discussion.
Right, it's just the discussion. Okay, well, it's, okay, great. It's just an update. Okay. Discussion update, NES-DEC enrollment figures. Dr. Thornton.
Madam Chair, you have in your packets a packet for enrollment projections from NESDAC, New England School Development Council. As you know, they do the projections for most districts in New England, and we are certainly in that group here in Warwick. I think the big, the lead on this story is from 2010 to 2020, we're down 2,011 students, 2,000 kids. It's not one reason either. There are multiple reasons you could assign to this. One, if you look in your packet on page 1, it talks about births in Warwick from 2005 to 2015. We're down about 105. So just to kind of explain, the 2015 births are the ones that are in kindergarten about now, right? It's like 5-year lag. So overall, births are down in Warwick. That's one contributing factor. I would also point you in the packet. If you look at your packet, you'll see we track with this company building permits for both single family and multifamilies. That's also down in Warwick. So that's also a contributing factor. Also, this year with the pandemic, we certainly have some variables like homeschooling. Normally we have around 200 students. This year we're up to 296. How many of those are for just flat out choice versus COVID? We don't really know, but we're certainly, we're up quite a few there. Charter schools, it's holding pretty steady, 106 last year, 102 this year. Career and tech out of district, 42 to 48. Once again, that's holding pretty steady, a little higher. Once again, as you always hear me complain, the pathways is a problem. It's going up from 90 to 120. And once again, that's a situation where, as you know, a neighboring district could have a program that we have identically, and we still must pay a tuition to send a student to that location. So that is a concern. So if you look at the packet, there are some easy to read charts, like bar graphs that kind of tells you historically 10 years, and then it goes into the next 10 years, what they expect to see. I would tell you, these aren't always perfect, but they're pretty darn close as far as predicting enrollment. I would say this year, NESDEC's given us a caveat. Because of COVID, they're offering all of us a free spring, it's called a second semester refresher. We get a free spring projection again. I think they're nervous, they're off this year. So they want to give us a spring refresher projection with COVID kind of in there. So, but in the 10-year projection, they do have us going down, but tapering down from 8,010 students now to 7,375 in 2030. will we go down that much? We'll have to see, but that's the projection, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have on this.
Anybody have any questions?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Testa.
Thank you. Dr. Thornton, thank you. Just so everybody's aware, NASDAQ has been being used in this district for, I think, almost 30 years for its demographic studies. And if I remember correctly, Mr. Bushel from years ago, when he was the keeper of this information, he had reported that they're usually within 1.5 or 2 in accuracy. There have been some people at some points for various arguments that question NASDAQ's data, but when we were looking at junior high school consolidations and all that, I spent days poring over this data, and it is accurate. I would point out 2 things. When I saw this in the agenda, I remember getting another NASDAQ deck like this earlier in 2020, and I did find it, and there was a sheet dated February 6th from 2020. And on the page in the enrollments where it shows the projected year outs from 2020 up to 2030, there's a dramatic change from the data they gave us in February to the data they gave us in November. And I think that has to do with obviously demographics. It has to do with outflows from the district. So I hear you on pathways. I hear you on charter schools. I hear all of that. The one thing I'm going to say, and I've been saying it for quite a while, is all of this can be wrapped up in a word, and that's called achievement. If Warwick, if we were among the top 3 or 5 districts in the state for achievement, we wouldn't be looking at these numbers. These numbers would not be as significant as they are. COVID did contribute to it. I get it. Demographics contributes to it too. But you can't educate the child you don't have. And I know for parents, you look at districts like North Kingstown, Cumberland, which isn't very different from Warwick. They're in the top 5. And I'll just say one more time, if we're in the top 3 or 5 from an achievement perspective in this district, if we had been at that level over the last 10 years or so, these numbers would be very different. So that's all. So my point is, we need to continue. I know once the COVID pandemic is over, and it will end, we need to get back to achievement, because that's what's going to drive parents keeping their kids in schools, not looking for pathways for their kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Anyone else?
May I?
Yes, Ms. Bacchus.
Mr. Testa, you're absolutely right on achievement. And we also have to try and find a way to take back vocational education as vocational education, and not as some sad joke put through by the state and various bad actors. We give our kids a true vocational education that does not exist in other areas with the pathways and things like that. It's a horrible waste. And hopefully we can work over the next few years to somehow turn that around and help people to see the difference between an actual vocational program and a pathway. Because our kids leave here certified, licensed, experienced, able to go right out and get jobs in the community, start businesses, etc. And part of their program even includes working on how to start a business in their area. So it's very well-rounded, much more so than a pathway, which are fine, but they are not a true vocational education. And we can't let that type of education get lost along the line because somehow pathways are more important. They're not. Pathways are a taste of something. And they're a way for districts to pull other people in and make more money. Sorry if anybody doesn't like that, but that's how I see it. And I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
I would like to comment. I agree with both Ms. Bacchus and Mr. Testa. Ms. Bacchus is correct, and I think in some situations, it could be just one or two classes different in some programs than us. So we do need to work on that, and we have a great career and tech center, and I think we need to, push it, because it's like Miss Bacchus said, they come out certified. A lot of them go out and get apprenticeships or jobs right away. So I think it's something that the district, we can all work on collaboratively together with administration. And we just all need to put our heads together and get creative. Anyone else? On to the next discussion and update, the monthly fiscal report with Mr. Baxter.
Hey, good evening, Madam Chair and members of the school committee. We've sent to you the monthly fiscal report. It's self-explanatory, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Testa.
Thank you. Mr. Baxter, thank you. Question. Now that there's a new administration, have you been able to meet with them yet, with their finance director, and just like we're supposed to?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mr. Schaefer and I had our first conference call virtual meeting, and I think we're off to a good start. We both were able to communicate to each other the opportunities and the challenges that we both face. We're planning to every other week have this call. It's scheduled on Friday afternoons, and we're just going to keep each other up to date and see how we can continue to work together. I will say that we've got a fantastic working relationship with the finance department we've had through the last several years, and it looks like we're going to continue to maintain that. So yeah, no.
That's good. And Mr. Schaefer was finance director in Warwick before, so he's familiar with our history. He knows the history of schools in the city and the acrimony. So it's good. I think it's very good that you guys are in contact, and I look forward to good things. So
Yes.
Thank you.
Same here. Thanks for the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll move on to the next. Discussion action, contract award for AP examination fees. Mr. McCaffrey.
Madam Chair, members of the school committee, you'll see in your packets two quotes for AP testing for Pilgrim and Tollgate. I recommend passage. It's something we're required to do, and it's something required as part of the AP course.
Thank you, Mr. McCaffrey. Can I get a motion to approve the examination fees?
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Discussion action.
Thank you very
Contract
much.
for choral risers and instrument storage at Veterans Memorial School. Mr. McCaffrey, again.
Yes. In last year's budget, you approved funds to revamp the rises at Warwick Veterans. I asked that you move passage on this item. It's needed, and we need to update. So our school is current.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCaffrey. Can I have a motion to approve this contract award?
So moved.
Favorable action.
Second.
Discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Cornell.
So, Mr. McCaffrey, so what schools are these risers going to? Which schools?
This school is going to Warwick Veterans Middle School.
Okay,
The requisition was from Warwick Veterans.
that's good. Yeah, and I'm just curious, has Windman got new risers too recently?
I can look into that for you. I'll have to check the budget and I'll look into that.
Okay,
I
thank
don't
you.
recall.
Thank you. I'm just saying, just, I visited there recently and those were falling down and it was a safety hazard. So that's why I was asking about women. But it's great that Vets is getting new ones because I'm sure they're in bad shape as well. So thank you for doing this.
I'll certainly look into it and I'll get back to you tomorrow, Mr. Cornell.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Can I get a motion to approve this contract award for the choral
Move
risers?
favorable action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Number 10, discussion action, contract award, elementary science instructional supplies. Mrs. Amelot.
Hi, yes, I bring this back tonight. This actually was approved in the fall, but due to COVID increased prices. So these are science kits for our special ed self-contained classrooms. And so it will support our students being able to really take advantage of the science professional learning that their teachers have been going to, and teachers are outreaching to us, Dr. Conley and myself, about having these kits. But the cost had gone up just about $2,000 from what I brought back in the fall. So I'm bringing back the approval to order those now.
Thank you, Mrs. Amelot.
May I?
Yes, Ms. Bacchus.
Amelot, is the money available? We're
Yeah.
running very.
Yes, we had budgeted for this, and it's been earmarked in my. It's been saved in my budget, and so it hasn't been spent on anything else. And so this has been this. We were able to find the other $2,000 in my. Clearly, that wasn't budgeted, but we had planned for this, and so we just moved some things around.
Fantastic. It's very needed. I fully support it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I move
I need a motion for this contract
Move
award.
favorable action.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you, Mrs. Amelot. I agree. Elementary science is definitely, we need the best. So thank you. Discussion action, contract award, Highlander Institute Professional Development for Bishop Hendricken. Mrs. Amelot.
So I'll refer to Mr. Baxter because this was part of our Title IV grants that the non-publics get in Warwick, and so that they had already we had sent forth with Dr. Cecil everything that we were spending, and so this is just this probably shouldn't have been on the agenda tonight because it's already been approved. But now, and Mr. Baxter, if you want to speak to that, you can, but this has been something that's been pre-approved, but we just kind of it got back on the agenda for some reason tonight.
So we don't really need to vote on this?
That's correct.
So the school
Thank
committee
you.
already voted?
Yep, you've already approved this, yeah.
Okay.
We sent
Okay.
everything for the non-publics all in one meeting, and then it just didn't get earmarked that it was already had been pre-approved in our internal Gorton system.
Okay. I would
Okay.
just move to the next agenda item.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to say one thing.
Sure, Mr. Testa.
Only because the public watches and I just.
They don't understand it. I understand.
Well, yeah, so this is federal title money that's already earmarked for it. It's not money we could have used, so it's not money that's being taken away from us.
Those funds travel students, not schools, and so those are earmarked for students.
Yeah.
And so,
So we're just a conduit to pass the money from the federal government to the school. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. That is important. I know a lot of people don't understand that, and it is important to understand that. It's not like we're giving them the money. We're the facilitators of it. Discuss in action, contract award, replacement of damaged or obsolete computers. Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the school committee. Good evening. What we have before you this evening is a request to purchase replacement computers for staffs in the administration building. This was a budgeted expense from last year. And what we did is, after I saw what the budget allocation was, we did a study of all the devices that we had amongst the administration and the staff. And it totaled about 156 devices. Then the technicians who did a tremendous work on this prioritized the need for replacement. of those devices. So we could specifically target a phased approach. The funding allows us to purchase 32 devices in this first phase, which should adequately replace at this point those devices that we've deemed to be in red. Those are the devices that have a number of failing components, also devices that are up to 5-6 years old in some cases. And it's the devices that a lot of our folks use to perform the functions of their job. About 8 of those devices are the director middle management, and the remaining 75% of the devices are for various office department secretaries, clerks, and staffs within the departments. It became very evident, and this was before I arrived, but it became very evident in March. If you could picture going into remote working and folks taking their laptop and then a keyboard, a mouse, and a monitor because those pieces did not work in the device that they had. And so we're trying to fix all that in this phased approach. And then hopefully next year we can implement a phase 2 and move forward. So that way we're never in a position where we have to replace more than we can. I'd seek favorable approval.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
Dr. Taylor, how are we doing with machines and getting machines in?
Excellent question, Ms. Bacchus. So these devices here, if approved, are devices that are currently in stock. It was these particular items. We had a vendor that won the bid in the technology bid process, and that particular item was no longer available. It's obsolete itself. So in working with the vendor, I found, and working with our technicians, a suitable replacement that fell a little bit under what that bid price was. So that way we could maximize it and even squeak out a few more devices to help a few more folks. But part of that in looking for a suitable replacement was something that was available immediately. And so those will hopefully be shipped as soon, barring approval this evening. Larger scale, there's always that question about Chromebooks. And so I also answer that question as far as technology that's out there. And so a lot of times folks will email me or email one of you, and then you'll CC me and I'll respond immediately to those folks. We are in line still for Chromebooks, which is good news given the current situation. As I've mentioned a few times at these meetings, and we're still in the same holding pattern, but it's sure a lot better than a lot of our friends around the country that are just waiting in line, and all of a sudden they throw them out of line and they're no longer in line anymore and have to start the process all over again. So we're still in line. We do entertain, and I push on a weekly basis for updates on the Chromebook order. And sometimes they'll float different possibilities to us, but it's either a device that's 2 or 3 times the cost for a very similar device, or a device that doesn't meet the correct specifications, like a no-name processor that nobody's heard of and stuff like that. So although we constantly seek to push that envelope, we are optimistically still in line for those devices. But I just wanted to use this as a chance to give you an update on there because you asked about devices in general.
Thank you.
Well,
I move approval.
excuse me, I'd like to say something. I have a question for you, Dr. Taylor. How does one get kicked out of line? I'm just curious.
So what happens with that is we end up having too many orders, and the manufacturer just says your order came in past a certain deadline, and they say, unfortunately, we don't think we're going to be able to fill your order at all based on the current demand and the amount of orders, and they just send them a cancellation notice. It's just as in ordering anything, they just say we can't fulfill your order. And unfortunately for us, it means starting at square zero again through the bid process, trying to find alternatives. So it would be definitely not a great place.
We basically have gotten pretty lucky then.
Yes, yeah, we got our order in. Yes, Madam Chair. Yep, we got our order in probably about a month before they still took orders, but those have seemed to be the orders that they've been canceling. Orders about a month after ours. So we're just keeping our foot on the pedal. I can't stress enough how often we try to beat up our vendors, but to their credit, it's the manufacturers. It's not the vendor per se.
Right.
They're short on manufacturers, but I'm going to keep my foot on the gas on that as much as I can. I'll keep everybody updated.
Right. Thank you very much. I was just curious. I was hoping that we didn't fall into that category. Any other discussion on this?
I would like to second Ms. Bacchus's motion for approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you all very much.
Discussion update for COVID-19 vaccine. Mr. Cornell. This was an issue that you wanted to discuss last week. and it
Sorry
was
about that.
on the agenda, So
Yeah.
I would like you to lead this. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sorry, my microphone was not working. I was trying to
Oh,
get on
okay,
it, and
great.
yeah, that's why I didn't answer immediately. Yeah, so I inquired about this at the last meeting because, as everyone knows, we're opening schools now, and I think it would be good if our faculty is vaccinated as soon as possible. So I think this would be best for Dr. Thornton. What is the state of in regards to vaccinations right now? Like, where are we at regarding that?
So in your packet, we got information on this last week. We gave it to you, but essentially, if you look on, I believe it's page 3, there's a visual. You can get a sense for, what the state's rolling out in phase 1. As you can see at the top of the page, hospital staff, EMS, home health and hospice workers. Moving down a little bit, we have community health centers, pharmacists. Moving down further, firefighters, law enforcement, hard-hit communities. You can see that's started, that's underway. Coming up next, not started yet, dentists, primary care, morticians, et cetera. And then even further down, not started yet, adults over 75. I can tell you, I had a conference call today with superintendents. Once again, many of us expressed our concern that educators were not in phase 1. We're, as you know, in the start of phase 2. I guess right now, my biggest optimism is for Joe Biden to come in and change the protocol and expedite this. But right now, we're looking at late March, early April. That's what we're hearing. We're hoping that is expedited, but that's the news today at about 1 o'clock. Late March, early April.
Thank you for that, Dr. Thornton. And I know you're doing the best you can to try to get this in. It's just it's slow all across the state, and it's so very unfortunate because we need to vaccinate as many people as possible. But I know you're working hard, and just continue going with that because and thank you for your work.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody want to discuss
Yes,
anything
ma'am.
on that? Yes, Ms. Bacchus.
Came in earlier, and I think we've all gotten letters from teachers and other employees, and I just want to put it out there that I don't know where the idea is coming from that people are going to be forced to have a vaccination if they teach for us or work for us. But that's poppycock. It's just, we can't force people, as far as I know, we really can't force people to do that anymore. There was a time when vaccinations were mandatory and you couldn't come to school and stuff like that, but public health is not what it used to be, and people's rights are now more important than the right of society in many cases, and so that people aren't mandated. But certainly there has been no discussion whatsoever with this committee to say that teachers need to be vaccinated and that we were going to mandate it. So please take that out of your heads. It's just one more thing. It's just one more windmill to flail at, which is not necessary. Don't worry. Be happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bacchus. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Testa.
I think it's important to understand, though, I mean, the school districts aren't going to control vaccinations. That's right now that the federal government let the states each have their own way of developing their own vaccine rollouts. So, whether that changes to a full federal model and then they mandate that educators get pushed to the front of the line, I don't know. We don't know how that's going to happen. But the last I heard with teachers weren't until, I think, beginning of March or end of February or something like that. I mean, that may change.
March, April.
Right. So, I mean, well, we'll do whatever the state says we have to do when it comes to vaccinating staff. I mean, I would imagine the state would notify educators, say, okay, you can get vaccinated on such and such a day, and then you go. So I don't know how much influence, we would have over it. I think, voters would have more influence if they wanted to, reach out to their state senators and state representatives and push to get teachers moved to the front of the line. I mean, the General Assembly could possibly change that, but a school committee or a school district isn't going to accelerate the rollout of vaccines.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Thornton.
one addition, the school nurse teachers are in number one, if you will. So they are in
Awesome.
the queue as we speak, school nurse teachers.
Thank you very much for sharing that information. That's important. I'm glad to hear that. I would also like to add, we also not only have a new president coming in, but we're going to have a new governor now. So people want to reach out to the governor, then, Mr. McGee, I mean, we might, you never know. Maybe we can get it forward, but hopefully, everything that everyone said, maybe things will move faster for Rhode Island. At least we're not as bad as some of the other states. We're doing better. So from what I could see statistically. Any more discussion on this topic? Nope. Okay, discussion action. Request for 1.0 intensive academic special education teacher and 2.0 teacher assistants at Welk. Dr. Conley.
Madam Chair, can you please table?
Oh, that's right. That's the one that we're going to hold
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you for the reminder.
We need a motion to table, Madam Chair.
Oh, we need can I have a motion to table that?
Move table.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Okay. Number 15, the discussion and action contract awards. I'm going to pull these all in, 1 through 12, veterans reimbursement, 2 grants / Tollgate Tech, 3 veterans textbooks, 4 grants elementary, 5 grants WACTC instructor classes, 6 the Tollgate gym floor, 7 the superintendent legal fees, 8 the tech computer repairs, 9 special services desk barriers, 10 special service training, 11 Greenwood Tech hardware, and the final one is athletics, the pool rental. Do any of you have any discussion for any of these items?
Madam Chair, I have one question.
Mr. Testa.
I don't wish to pull it. I just want some clarification. Number 6, Tollgate gym floor from Kenville Floor Company. What's that for?
That was for the floor to be refinished.
Oh, so that was what we approved
Correct.
a couple of meetings ago? Okay, that's part of that. All right. Thank you, Mr.
Correct.
Oliver.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions on any of these items? I'd like a motion to approve items 1 through 12.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Future meetings, there's a monthly school committee meeting on Tuesday, February 9th, and there's a special school committee meeting tomorrow at, I believe, is it 5:30?
I believe it's 6 o'clock tomorrow.
6 o'clock. Thank you. It wasn't put on the agenda because I think it was just scheduled after this already came out. So, thank you very much. Everybody stay safe.
Madam Chair, before we adjourn, may I just say one thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, and I was remiss in not saying it earlier. I just want to congratulate you and Mr. Cornell on your positions. I just should have done that at the beginning, and I forgot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Testa. I'd also like to speak on behalf of myself and the committee to Warwick Public Schools got an award for from the U.S. Senate, Mr. Sheldon and Governor Raimondo for, and I'll quote, leading by example through adoption of implementation of clean energy measures. As much as it's wonderful that the district got this, I think we need to compliment Mr. Gothberg for his hard work because, in all honesty, he is the man behind this. We might approve things, but it's his work. So on behalf of this committee and myself and this committee, I'd like to congratulate you, Mr. Gothberg, for getting us those 2 awards.
Thank you, Madam Chair, but it's a team effort. Mr. Oliver's involved. There's many people involved. Mr. Ferrucci, Mr. Baxter. There's plenty of people involved, and I'd like to thank them all. I certainly do not do this alone. Thank you.
Well, thank you to all and your whole team, Mr. Gothberg. You make us proud. Thank you. So could I have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to thank Mr. Testa for the nice sentiment of congratulating me and Ms. Cobden. Thank you for that. That was very good spirited.
On
Move
that,
to adjourn. I make the motion to adjourn.
thank you, Mr. Testa.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. See some of you tomorrow. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. Thank
Aubrey.
you. Thank you. Sorry again.
It's okay. Thank you very much for your guidance.